Hello, everyone. I'm Ariella Markowitz, the founding director of SVIVAH. SVIVAH is about creating a more nourishing communal faith experience for Jewish women, where we define both Jewish and women very broadly. If you want to be with us, we want you to be with us and welcome. We love that we are multi-generational and diverse in our backgrounds and our affiliations, and we come together in celebration and support of women and our strengths and our unique perspectives and ways of walking through the world. HerTorah is a fabulous program of SVIVAH under the direction of Rabbanit Elisa Sperling, which was designed to create a space for women who may not cross paths with each other under regular circumstances, but to come together over our shared foundational text and have an opportunity to engage with each other really deeply, and to use Torah as a medium for community and connection building and bring our lived experience into the mix to elevate both our Torah learning and our opportunities to learn with and from one another. I get to thank those who make HerTorah possible, first and foremost, of course, to Rabbanit Elisa for your thoughtfulness and your creativity in creating these amazing spaces for us to connect with each other and feel elevated by the coming together around a table, virtual or otherwise. Next to Yeshivat Maharat, thank you for your partnership in raising the bar for excellence in Torah scholarship and elevating and valuing women's voices. And a huge thank you to the Aviv and Covenant Foundations for their faith in HerTorah in creating a unique way of learning together in community. I would love to encourage everybody to, I'll take a breath and then go while I'm taking my breath to sign up for SVIVAH's mailing list, because I'm going to tell you what we're going to do this month for HerTorah, which is a departure from what we regularly do. But go to our website, svivah.org, and sign up for our mailing list so that you can have this month of HerTorah in your inbox. What we're doing this month, where it's August and everybody may have travel plans or be distracted by start of school year, start of new year, moving, all the things, we wanted to figure out how to encapsulate this month of Elul, this moment of preparation in advance of these high holidays with Rosh Hashanah right around the corner, and it's going to sneak up on us. We wanted to still be able to bring these incredible scholars and thinkers and leaders and share their voices, lift up their voices, and have them elevate our month so that while we're in the midst of the hustle and bustle of this last bits of summer, we can still be in community with each other and with these amazing leaders. So all month long, we are going to have such a diverse, beautiful, like my grin is from ear to ear, just thinking of the roster of people who we have who have been so gracious and kind in spending a minute with us to share how they're approaching the high holidays this year and what they're walking into the new year with. So I am so excited to be able to introduce Rav Amalia Mark today. I am so grateful to you for being here today, and I'm laughing a little bit because there's so much like fate and bashert in everything that today is our day to spend together, because popping up in my Facebook feed was actually the first time 4 years ago where I found my way to Mayim Chaim, which is, I'll let you describe Mayim Chaim for a minute because I won't do it justice, but I love that today was the day that I first encountered that very, very special space, an important space in ritual and in Jewish communal life. And I am so excited to be able to congratulate you on your recent ordination.
Thank you.
And be able to love using Rav Amalia instead of just Amalia. It's so amazing to have you as one of our official clergy. It's so fantastic. What a beautiful achievement. And you are the director of program and partnerships at Mayim Chaim. So I love that we crossed paths well before this. And everything about you, since me knowing you, has been about trying to figure out how to bring the spiritual elements of ritual closer to people, more accessible to people, so that there are different ways where we can truly encapsulate how we're feeling or what we need in terms of spiritual connection or spiritual growth, and really make it our own and tap into actually the beautiful traditions that we have to help us through these different moments in our lives, or to mark these moments in our lives. And I think that speaks to everything that you are in terms of what your pulpit is and looks like. And I'm just so thrilled that you're here. I'd love, if there's anything that you'd love to add about who you are and how you are, please, because I love being able to introduce and share you with so many other people.
Thank you. And thank you for organizing this. It's so incredible to see the lineup of women and folks who are going to be teaching Torah. And I'm really honored and kind of astounded to be among them. I wanted to say a word about Mayim Chaim, about who we are as an organization. We are a mikvah, which is a Jewish ritual bath for Jews and all those becoming Jews at the moment of conversion. So people come to the mikvah for all sorts of transitional moments in their lives. The biggest one might be becoming a Jew. Another one might be getting married, before having a child, before going off to kindergarten, ending high school. We have an immersion, I think, next week of somebody who's finishing up high school. So marking big moments in our lives in a deeply Jewish way that is now accessible for Jews of all different denominations and no denominations, and education or no education around it, because we try and lower as many barriers to offer a ritual in a way that's sacred and safe, because it involves taking off all of your clothing, and we want people to be safe in that process. And it's also really beautiful, because beauty matters in ritual. So we are a space that is a nourishing place for all Jewish people to come and mark transitions in their life.
I love that. I fell in love with Mayim Chaim's mission long ago, and really appreciated the accessibility. Feels like a technical word, but there's so much warmth and there's so much welcoming about the accessibility that is Mayim Chaim on so many different levels, and really just opens up this new way of connecting to whatever it is you need in that moment spiritually. I think so much of what Judaism is often really cerebral, and the bodily piece of the mikvah ritual is profound and really eye-opening for so many people, particularly anyone experiencing it for the first time. And it really taps into a different element of how we connect with our faith and our spirituality. Thank you for, don't shortchange yourself at all. I love the idea that we're taking this time to be able to lift up so many of the amazing leaders who lift the rest of us up throughout the year, and share your voices and your wisdom, especially during this tumultuous, like this Elul month is always something of like, I want to ignore the fact that Rosh Hashanah is around the corner, but I know this month was designed for me to not leave it till the last minute. So I'm really thankful for you being here and being willing to share your thoughts. I'd love to ask you, if you don't mind, this word teshuva is a big word, and many people define it differently. I've asked a number of our fabulous interviewees to think about the word teshuva, and I'd love to ask you the same. I'll let you define it however you would choose to define it, but to share with us how you're thinking about it this year, or what teshuva has meant to you this year.
That's a great question. I always find it really hard to translate Hebrew, because there's always a gap. There's just no way around the gap of the way I emotionally identify with a Hebrew word that I might not emotionally identify with the English translation of that word, even if it's grammatically perfect. So I really think about teshuva as return, and it's the closest emotional resonance for me of what it means to be in process with it, because it's a verb. So it's not a one time, let's do this thing and Elul's over now and great, let's all go to Sukkot and be happy. It's, I think about Teshuva all year long, because for me, it's not just this moment of like counting the month of Elul and like I'm walking into Rosh Hashanah, who am I now? I think it builds up to that moment. But when I think about if I've hurt someone, like a friend, I want to do tshuva. I want to show up for her or for them and say, I'm sorry, and I'll do better. And that's not constricted to one part of the year.
Right.
And so I try very hard to take this idea of tshuva and hold it through the year. And inevitably, I mess up. I don't want to apologize to a friend, to a spouse, to a sibling when I hurt them, because I am a human full of difficult emotions. And I want to say, no, my pride is really important to me. And
that doesn't sound familiar at all.
Being human is hard. And so for me, Elul is the opportunity to say, okay, yes, I've had great intentions of doing this process throughout the year. And like inevitably I've fallen off of that and like made a lot of mistakes. So how am I going to hit the reset button with myself and be forgiving to myself in that process of returning? It's not, the word tshuva is heavy. Like it feels heavy to me of like, I know what I have to face in myself to be able to do this action, to be able to go through the process with myself and then another person. Because it's not just saying, oh, I messed up. It's also saying to my friend, I hurt you in this way and I want to do better. And to say all of that requires tremendous courage and requires tremendous amounts of presence with oneself and another person. And I often don't want to do that, or I'm tired, or there's a pandemic going on and I'm like, I'm so overextended, I can't do this. So again, like this returning to what I want to be, who I want to be, and where I want to go.
Yeah. That's really, I think there's a lot of message of self-compassion in that, not being so hard on ourselves. I think like the pressure of having this one moment and one day to right all the wrongs of a whole year, it's too much. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I really
takes away from when somebody is like, oh, I want to like reach out and ask for forgiveness for the whole year. Like, this is not how we should be in process with each other.
Yeah, no, the idea of it being a process that is all year, I really appreciate that. I'm curious how this idea though, and the focus this month so heavily on tshuva though, how is it something that you let it seep throughout your year? Like you might be a little holier than me, that you have tshuva on top of mind constantly. I think it's again, that's a goal, to be able to want to show up differently, to want to self-improve. And I appreciate this month of focus and hope that it kind of sustains me the year through, because I'd love to show up that way. So I'm curious how you use this month in particular to kind of reinvigorate your year, or make sure that it's a goal of your year.
I can only speak for myself on this, but like I'm the type of person that I need to hear an apology to move forward. If someone's hurt me, I need to hear a recognition of action, and then I'm sorry, like those two magic words in some combination. So that's not just during Elul. So I found when I've held a lot of pain or hurt as a result of an interaction with a friend, a coworker, a family member, what have you, knowing I need that and that there is a model for me to lean on in this process, that I don't just have to sit in this like pain and hurt, that especially if I'm talking to someone in a Jewish circle of mine that has a reference to the framework of tshuva, I can bring that up. I
Wow.
can use it as we have a collective language together of understanding that, understanding that Teshuva is both of us coming to the table together. And I think about apologies, like writ large, actually, like, and how often they don't feel like anything at all.
Yeah.
And how Teshuva is meant to actually be a process of accountability with oneself, accountability with another person, and ultimately change. So if all we ever see are the words or hear the words, I'm sorry, we haven't engaged in anything. And I want real, meaningful relationships with other people. I
Yeah.
want to see carers of each other and of the world. And Teshuva is the way that I try and do that. Is when I say, oh wait, I've said something really horrible to a friend. Where did that come from inside me? Why did I do that? I have that self-interrogation that I think we like ramp up to 1,000 in Elul, which is fine because it's kind of like a Teshuva Boot Camp month.
Yeah.
But if you had like a little bit every day or every week or every month of that internal Teshuva work that we brought to our relationships with ourselves and others, Elul would have a totally different emotional feeling to us, because instead of it being this like drop into shockingly cold water, it's more of we're wading into the deeper water slowly until we're ready to stand there and say, all right, the big things that I've kind of pushed off, that like the pain that I haven't been accountable for this past year, now is the time I'm ready to face it, as opposed to having to fix and repair and deal with every relationship in our lives. I can't do that.
Right. Right.
And so Elul for me is also a time to think about bigger moments of Teshuva, of like, where's my Teshuva with racism? Where's my Teshuva with how I'm culpable or not as a white cisgendered woman? And so it's also, again, it's a lens that I take when I think about almost anything I do in my life. It doesn't really just exist in Elul for me.
I appreciate that tremendously. I think that it's such a powerful message to be able to remind ourselves that this concept of Teshuva is one that should be pervasive throughout our lives. And maybe this hyper intensive, or I'm blanking, you called it the boot camp, that this Elul boot camp of Teshuva is an opportunity to kind of just like prime ourselves so that we have a consistent practice of Teshuva throughout the rest of the year. And I appreciate so much the framing of like both sides of the Teshuva coin, that it's like those who I need to forgive, those who I am in relationship with, who Teshuva is a two-way process, and I want to, help me achieve that relationship with them, so that the Teshuva that they're doing, I can guide them into what I need for myself, and also, whatever it is that you need to do vis-a-vis the other relationships in your lives that you hold dear. And then this, the magnitude of this global Teshuva of how we are in the world and who we are in the world. Hello.
This is Stevie. She likes
Hello.
Torah.
I love that. That is amazing. We're going to count how many pets we have show up in all of these interviews. So far, we're up to number 3.
Yeah, good.
But you get the honor of being the first cat. No, for sure. I think it's awesome. You know what? It's very telling, because I was actually, one of the things that is a privilege of this pandemic life is getting an insight into the more personal sides of those who we revere, those who we look up to, those who we strive to emulate, people who are leaders in our eyes. And we have this like more, so this is an intimate glimpse into who you are spiritually, and also an intimate glimpse into who you are personally. And I think the intimacy for the rest of us as voyeurs is actually really, to go back to the word of accessibility, it helps us kind of realize that we can achieve the humanity and greatness that so many of our amazing leaders encapsulate. I'd love if I can shift gears a little bit, just because of this marking of time. I feel like there's so much the Mayim Chaim language of marking moments and being reflective on where we've been in times past. And the new year is definitely one of those time markers. Do you have any like Torah that you're holding in this moment? I think a lot of folks, this idea of remembering exactly where we stood a year ago on last Rosh Hashanah, it's a lot to kind of just absorb this past year. So I'm curious what Torah you're holding or what Torah is holding you.
Yeah. This feels like the longest and shortest year of my life. I got married. I became a rabbi. I moved. There's like major life transitions all happening at once.
Yes.
And then I was thinking about this question a lot and holding it as I'm watching kind of global events unfold and thinking about Afghanistan and thinking about this feeling of like, it's been a year. Has anything changed? Have I changed, or have I just kind of mindlessly been on my hamster wheel? Because that was the only way I could live for a while. And it actually reminded me of some really beautiful Torah that weirdly enough comes from an academic source, which is not where I am usually pulling my Torah from, but I took a class this past semester in contemporary Jewish thought, and I read this piece that changed me fundamentally, and that I've been using kind of as my rock in this moment of global and personal upheaval. And it's by Melissa Raphael. I think I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. She's a scholar, and it's called When God Beheld God. And she has a feminist theology of the Shoah, of the Holocaust. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until I read an excerpt from her book. And she talks about how God is actually present in Auschwitz, but it's the feminine presence of God, the Shekhinah. And she has this whole, like, really, it's fantastic. Highly recommend. Everybody should read it. Just this whole, like, reclamation of the divine feminine without it becoming this sort of, like, women as apologetics, which I think I grew up with a lot. And then she ends this piece by writing a feminist take similar to The Lost Princess by Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. And she writes this story of the divine feminine being present in the camps at Auschwitz with the pain and the horror and the rupture, and being present there. And being present there as the space between people who do the smallest acts of human dignity to each other. Like giving someone a cone in the bath, like the latrines of Auschwitz, is that moment when she's present. So she's there and she's suffering with her people. She's not gone. And that, in fact, she's holding this pain with them. And for me, like, that's the only way I can really hold God right now, is that God has to be in Afghanistan right next to the people. This Shekhinah is not gone. God didn't turn God's face away from us. Actually, the Shekhinah is deeply present and has to be deeply present. And the way that she remains is by us reaching out to each other with even the smallest kindness acts of love. So I'm holding that really hard. And that the Shekhinah is not gone. The Shekhinah is present with me, present with others, but through my actions. That this boundless love of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence, is there. Because when I choose this moment of tshuva, when I choose to say, I'm putting aside my pride for 1 second, even a second, like that's like divine love manifest right there in that moment. Like she's standing right there. And so I'm holding that really, really closely, so I don't get overwhelmed with this feeling of the world is so broken. I can't, what am I going to do? I'm paralyzed. And that she doesn't leave.
Ugh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really, really beautiful. And it's strangely comforting and empowering at the same time.
Yeah.
Where any of the despair that anybody has felt over this past year, personal, global, otherwise, I think this moment of reflecting backwards can be debilitatingly overwhelming. But the idea of empowering ourselves to say we have a divine role here in, I don't know, fixing it is too much, but
maybe being present the way that the Shekhinah is present with us. Like that, imagining we Shabbat, we talk about welcoming the Shabbat Queen, but what if every moment in our pain and knowing in like the deepest, darkest moments of our own sorrow, our own personal like tearing apart, what if there is actually the Shekhinah is present in that moment, suffering, holding that pain with us? That's what I really, the only way I can sit with this year is like, it's with the rabbis who have done so much for their communities. It's with the chaplains who are like covered in PPE, holding the phone to the person's ear so their family can say goodbye as they're dying, like, because they can't be at the bedside. The Shekhinah is right there, there. And I like, for like, I'm a visual person, so even imagining that is a way for me to feel like redemption's possible from this year and to next year. And even as it feels like the world is in flames, both figuratively and literally, God's presence is still here.
Thank you for that reminder. I think just on the heels of Tisha B'Av having been our last major holiday, and thinking about just having a space to actually talk about despair and where is God in this moment. I really appreciate actually being able to continue that thought and bring that into Rosh Hashanah too. The idea of facing the words for Unatana Tokef is really like, who shall live and who shall die, who shall be sick, who shall be healed. Really just, we need that beauty of the Shekhinah to be with us. And I really am so grateful for that reminder. And I'm going to hold you to it, and I'm going to make you send me the title of that book so that I can include it so that everybody can find it.
It's incredible.
Thank you. If that's not Rosh Hashanah reading, I don't know what is. That is amazing. Thank you very much for that. And Rav Amalia, thank you. Thank you for uplifting our Elul. Thank you for giving me, and I'm hoping everybody who's listening, something really just strengthening to walk into this new year with, and joining us to walk into the new year together. Community feels so funny right now, but I really feel just so grateful to be in community with you and in everybody who's enjoying your Torah today. Thank you so, so much. I really, truly hope that anybody who's listening, that you take an opportunity to find Rav Amalia. You can find her at Mayim Chaim, and we'll help you do that. We'll include her contact information on our website too. And I hope we'll see you again. I'm going to get to wish Rav Amalia a Shana Tova. May it be sweet and healthy and full of lots of compassion, and good things to come, more good things to come. And if we don't see more of you at our next series of interviews, we're going to wish you a Shana Tova as well, but I hope that we'll see you back for the other amazing leaders and scholars who are coming.
I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to all the Torah. I'm going to listen
It's
to it as
awesome.
I'm prepping for Rosh Hashanah, cooking, cleaning, journaling.
Oh, you are a dedicated Rosh Hashanah high holiday person. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so grateful, and a Shana Tova.
Shana Tova, thank you.